saying what an honor it is for you to be here today. And, well, I'm going to recount chronologically, more or less. In other words, there might be some flash forwards and some flash backwards. My illustrious life in show business, yes, started in 1937, so many years ago now. And, well, you know, you're probably wondering, well, I wonder exactly how old Noel Howard is. Well, I've got a little song for you coming up in just a minute about that. Well, oh yes, very important to mention, well, I wouldn't really be here without Peter Fortescue. Now, Peter Fortescue, he's my agent and has been since I started. And Peter Fortescue, 100 the end of this month, by the way, Peter is. So our paths crossed when I was a student at Imperial College, London, studying European languages, and Peter was the bellboy. That's right. Well, you know, he became my agent. Soon I was very well known amongst the peers of England. Just to be short, P-I-E-R, peers, you know, as in Western Superman, not P-double-E-R, not the House of Commons, the peers of England. And where I had a whimsical line, and I played the piano. And Peter's so successful. Oh boy, has he gone through the stratospheric heights now? He's very rich and very successful. Peter is. So, oh yes, age. You know, you hear people say that age is just a number. Well, that's a bit like saying to me, well, basically, a tadpole is just a whale on a scale of 1 milligram to a ton. So I can't really go with that one. But anyway, back to the song. I'll be singing you some songs and describing the very famous people I've known in my career in show business. So the song I'm going to sing you will give you a hefty hint as to my actual age. I refuse to divulge, but I will give you a big hint. So it's called I might be 103. Okay, so here we go. That out there. Off we go. Oh, all stations go. I might be well. One page to start off with. I might be page 30. Oh, we go. My age is a common source of speculation. It's a rumor mill over which I have no regulation. But to divulge my age, I categorically will never agree. All I will say is I might be 103. Just might. My contemporaries often inquire with little grace how I managed to retain such a youthful face. And when I simply reply, I do not know, it has been looking rather slow. And all I will say is I might be 103. One day an antiquarian asked me if I were an antique. And I thought, well, now my book of insults is really, truly complete. Not that I am aware I made riposte. Without a flinch, I'll be treading the floorboards, even when they part me up in a winch. My age, I said, is no great conspiracy. You see, I might be 103. But of course, you realize I might not actually saying I am that age, but there's considerable possibility. I shouldn't set myself the challenge. So now I'm getting back to yes. Well, actually, after I started in show business, it quickly became aware to me that I had to have the right balance between the piano playing and the comedy, which was also my other line, you see. Because Peter, well, frankly, he didn't hold the punches with criticism sometimes. He'd say, Noel, oh, he was this Cockney, so he'd go on, Noel, you're not classically trained, you know. I mean, and one time, Noel, what about the diminished seventh? And I said, Peter, over the years, Peter, my estimation of the diminished seventh has diminished. So I was just trying to find the right chord with the piano and hoping not too many people would notice any possible flaws there. So the comedy was also rather important. You're probably asking, well, what was the comedy? Well, it was a mixture of jokes, gags, and, what's probably because I studied European languages, what I like to call vignettes, little vignettes. So to give you an idea of the gags, something like this. What? Ah, yes. So you might have a sidekick to respond to your, with the, I say. What do you say? Oh, these sudden movements, getting back to the old days again, when I'm really not able to, I give you an example. So I say. What dance did the extinct bird from the island of Mauritius used to do? And your sidekick, if you had one, if not, frankly, you just have to go, two people, Dr. Gentleman, I don't know what it will, Anyways, let's imagine I had a sidekick. I don't know. What did the now extinct bird from the extinct bird from Mauritius used to do? And of course I would say, well, of course, the paso doble. Now, if you tried to say that today, they would have you in the stocks, in your socks, if you tried that. No, now today, this is an example of, in fact, I used this one in the Garden Centre at Settle last February when I last worked. That was 6 months ago already. But anyway, what did the desert island say to the atoll? I mean, you've got to imagine the desert island, the atoll as people, as he or she, it doesn't matter really. Well, apparently it doesn't these days. So, so here's the desert island to the atoll, who wants to break off the relationship. You see, you've got no hinterland. Think that's very Edward de Bono, very gnomic. That's the kind of gag you need. Now, as regards my next song, I'm just already thinking what's the next one. Oh, it's the wartime one, but that's just in a minute. Now I'll give you the other humorous element to my performances, the vignettes, which were in many ways more successful, of course, because, well, people tended to like. But anyway, I'll give you one that, a great faithful friend of mine was of course, the two linguistic idiots. That one never failed to raise the roof. You're thinking, what were the two linguistic idiots? Well, I tell you what, I'll give it you as a scene. Okay, so you've got to imagine Le Deux Magots in Paris, okay? And there's a character who's reading the Times, and another character sat by, and the conversation goes a little bit like this. Excusez-moi, vous êtes anglais? The other one. Oh, enfin, oui, je suis anglais. Oh, incroyable, je suis aussi anglais. Vraiment, fantastique. The other one. Pardon, du viens en Angleterre? Je suis de Rushhall, Manchester. Incroyable. Je suis de Didsbury. Nous vivons. Le monde est vraiment petit. And so they continue like that. Both from Manchester, continuing in French. And, well, they usually liked it anyway. The two linguistic idiots. Maybe it's not such a faithful stock one after all. Just 1 second. I think it's time for my next song. And that's going to be, well, by now it was the war, you see. because I only got into show business slightly before the war, 3 years, 2 actually, to work it out. And, you know, the bombings, the terrible, oh, it was dreary. The Blitz, the London Blitz. I'm from London myself, in case you didn't know. And, well, many people went down to the underground to hide from bombs, and there were many people there, really. I mean, Lionel was always there. Oh dear, Lionel Blair and his sister Joyce, they would dance, you know. So anyway, I said to Peter, I mean, I know there's a war on, but maybe we're missing. Don't you think we should go to the underground? So, I'll just play the song for you now. So what happened was that we, you know, Peter sourced a baby piano, brought it down to the underground, and I entertained the masses. And this was my, well, you know, I was going to say that I became quite well known in circles, which is not quite right. It's better to say I became quite well known on the circle line. Anyway, here it is. My first, I think my first composition was one, and it's called Let's Not Go Under on the Underground. And here it is. Let's not go under on the underground. It's a terrible thing to be lost and not found. So as you hear the distant bombs pound, remember we're British, with at times a temperament quite skittish. Not to be cowed by some dictator, we can always leave the fight till later. Let's not go under on the underground. Remember Robin Hood and his merry crowd. He also faced a foe after carrion, but at least he had made Marion. Remember too Dick Whittington and all that he found in London. But admittedly, he did not have to go underground. But they didn't like it. No, they didn't like it. So I was rather disappointed. I suppose when you're being bombed, you know, it takes a lot to cheer you up. But anyway, that was how I took the entertainment during the war years. Then, Margate, yes, it was Margate, 1942, and something remarkable happened because Peter came to the dressing room. He said, "Noel," his voice again. "Noel, you won't." He wasn't particularly cultured actually, Peter, but a good sort. "Noel, you won't believe this, but there's a guy here. This bloke, he's from Hollywood. He's called Burt Baker, and he works for Warner Brothers. He's seen you tonight." And he says, you got something. Well, you don't know what it is, but he said you got something. And he wants you to audition for this new film. It's on over in the United States, the Casablanca, something. So, well, of course, anyway, I had a talk with this Burt Baker, but just as a little aside, I have to remember when I hear the surname Baker. Hilda, dear Hilda Baker, who I knew, of course. Hilda Baker used to call me the most refueled entertainment in London. I think she meant the most refined, but you know, the malapropisms and all that. Oh, back to Burt Baker. So, well, obviously I accepted with great alacrity. And very soon we were off on a troop ship down to Manhattan, New York, because by this time America had entered the war, just. And anyway, we got to Manhattan, took a plane over to Hollywood, and when I got to the ship, do you know, I'll give it to you as a scene, yeah? I think it's slightly better. Okay, so shouldn't do those sudden swivel movements. They do play havoc with my bones, those swivel movements. So, should have mentioned, did I? Yeah, I was going to be, I auditioned for Casablanca as a possible in the cast, and it went kind of like this, you know. Yeah. Okay, Joe, the cables, okay, they're good, they're in place, okay. Casablanca, final airport scene, action, scene 1, take 1. Now listen, you're getting on that train. Cut! Sorry, did I say that incorrectly? At this point, Michael Curtiz, he was the director of Casablanca, came up to me and said, Noel, it's the film is really, really important. It's a plane, it's a plane. It's not a train, I mean, think about it, okay, you're in Casablanca, Morocco. What you're gonna get a train up to, Algiers, you cross to Gibraltar, then you go to Lisbon, you get the clipper to America. I don't think so. Well, I'm really sorry. I didn't bring my Bradshaws. Yeah, but that's okay, but it's a plane. It's a key point. Oh, I'll make a note. Okay, now Noel, let me just fill you in a bit about this film. We don't know where it's going to go. There's that main song, which is, as time goes by, I don't know what that's going to do with anything. And Ingrid Bergman, there's Miss Ingrid Bergman, she's coming along in a second. But, Humphrey's right by. Humphrey, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Noel Howard. Sure, how do you do? It's really good to have you on the set. Okay, and Humphrey, we think he's going to do Rick in the film. Say, just a minute there, Michael. I thought I got the part. What's this about we think? Yeah, Humphrey, we're kind of sure, really, but kind of sure. Yeah, well, we kind of, yeah. Humphrey, let me put it like this, this young man, Bert Baker saw him, and he said, yeah, sure, Bert Baker says. Yeah, Bert Baker saw him, he says he's got something, so we're going to give him a reading, so, just bear with us. We got Peter Lorre there, we think Peter Lorre is Ergati, and Peter Lorre? Did somebody say my name? Yeah, hi Peter. Oh, this is Mr. Noel Howard from London. Oh, how do you do? Hey, I heard something about Peter Lorre, that you think Peter Lorre is going to play Ergati. You only think that? Yeah, well, it's almost certain, Peter. I really don't like that. I thought that part was mine. Rick, do something, Rick. They're trying to take my part. Do something, Rick. Now, Peter, this is art imitating life and life imitating art. You know very well that you say, Rick, do something when the French police are after you. Yeah, so, give it, chill a little bit there, Peter. Okay, but I really want to talk. Yeah, well, just sit over there, Peter, because you're not in this seat. Yeah, Noel. Do you know where I'm going? Let me have a look here. Where I'm going, you can't go. Yeah, where I'm going, you can't go. And could you go from the? Oh yes, I know all the lines very well. Okay, so Casablanca, airport scene. Take two. Miss Bergman, you okay there? On the line. Good, Miss Bergman. Yeah. Action. Where I'm going, you can't follow. What I'm about to do, you can't be any part of. Look, I'm not very good at being noble, Ilse, but it doesn't seem impossible that the problems of three little people amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Cut! Sorry, is that not the... Yeah, no, good, yeah, kinda. How do you do that? I'm sorry? Cray, it's, we Americans, it's just crazy. Can you try that? Well, you can certainly try. Okay, so airport scene, final airport scene, take three, action. Well, it doesn't, Hilda, where I'm going, you can't follow. What I'm about to do, you can't be any part of. Look, Ilse, I'm not very good at being noble, but it seems to me that the problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world that we live in. One day you will understand that. At this point, Ilse was... But Richard, what about us? Here. We'll always have Paris. If we didn't, we lost it. And we got it back when you came to Casablanca. Yeah. She cries. Hey. Here's looking at you, kid. Cat! Was this all right then? Sure didn't think you did as well as I Yeah, well, yeah, Noel, well, I think that's a wrap for today. Now, Noel, you're in the Hotel Excelsior in Bel Air, is that right? Correct. Yeah, well, look, tomorrow we'll ring you. Don't ring us, please. Don't, we'll ring you. Okay. Well, that was it, I was out of the film, frankly. They didn't want me. My talents were unrequired. But I got something out of California, which was, there was a young girl who, Conchetta, and I always remember Conchetta. She would call out from the background. I would hear, "Coffee, Conchetta," yeah. And well, I would say we had a romance. We'd go to the beach together, guitar music playing, and lovely Conchetta. But for circumstances. But anyway, there's a song which I'll play a few bars, which in my mind I still have very fond memories of. I always associate this song with Dear, Dear Conchetta, and it goes something like this. If I can remember it now. I think it was it? No, it was. No, well, you see, I'm quite sensitive. Playing it now makes me sort of fill up a bit, but it was like that one. Got the wrong key there. Border, hang on a second, it's F. That's it, I'll try it one more time then. Oh, that'll do, a downturn, yeah. I don't like to play it south of the border. I could probably sing it better for you. And it was, yes, it would go, south of the border. And then it goes down, yes, I'll sing it for you, down Mexico way. And there's a lovely, there's a lovely riff to it. It's in the middle, it goes, it goes like da 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 da, which is usually played by a clarinet. And anyway, that in my mind, I always see Dear Conchetta when I hear south of the border down Mexico way. It was such happy times. Well, anyway, so I was going back to England because of my auditioning in Hollywood was not a resounding success, shall we say. And, well, frankly, then the army had me because, did I mention, being a student at Imperial College London, I got deferment for my conscription. But by 1942, when the war was still not going too well, they conscripted me into the Royal Engineers. So what followed was 2 years of route marches and assault courses. I didn't like it one little bit. And in December 1944, just 6 months before the end of the war, the powers that be decided that I should experience active service in war-torn France. So off I went, and that's where I met Edith Piaf, of course I'm referring to. Yes, I can see her now, We had a little, I was attached to a hospital, which was right next to ENSA, the entertainment camp hospital here. And I was given the keys. I was a bit older than some of the boys, 17, 18, I was 25 by that time. So I had the responsibility, I had the keys, even to the women's ward, the hospital, quite safe with me, of course. So anyway, Colonel Horton, we'd go to Colonel Horton, we called him Chiefy, and we'd say, oh, Chiefy, who's on? Is it, Max Miller, is he on? Or maybe Vera Lynn's come over today. And this particular day, Chiefy said, boys, you really must go and see this French woman. She's called Edith Piaf. And we went along, and I say there she was, darkened stage, the footlights, and this tiny figure came onto the stage, and suddenly this enormous voice from this small body just reverberated around the auditorium. It was quite affecting, really, and very memorable, and something that one never forgets. So after Edith finished, I thought, I'll go round, So I went, I said, Edith, that was wonderful. And she replied, do I know you? I said, it is I, Noel Howard, Stars in Battle. Well, actually, I wasn't Stars in Battle dressed. I wasn't that well known enough, but she didn't know that. I said, I have a very big question to ask you. She said, oh, please, Mr. Howard, I have so many requests for marriage. I said, no. I said, I was going to, would you please do a duet with me? So she agreed, and so I ran through some choices past her. I was going to play one of them. I thought she'd like to do a duet with me. Was this one, which was underneath the lamplight by the barricade. I remember, darling, the way you used to wait. Was there that you whispered tenderly that you loved me, you'd always be. But she didn't like that. Not at all, no. I think it was professional jealousy with Marley and Dietrich, myself. So I tried another one, which was this one. George Robey, who's known as the Prime Minister of Mirth in those days. Yes, has a certain resonance today. George Robey and Violet Lorraine. So I tried this one. If you were the only girl in the world, and I were the only boy, nothing else would matter in the world to me. We could go on loving in the same old way. Garden, God, and she liked that. So I said, well, we'll do that one then, Edith. And I played that through. And, she was quite cross with me at the end. She said, but Mr. Howard, you did not let me come in for the duet, and you agreed that you would give me that funny wink. I said, I'm terribly sorry, Edith. I was caught up in the moment. I completely forgot about it. But maybe tomorrow we can do the duet properly. Well, I'm afraid the next day, fortunes of war and all that, Edith was down to Arromanches, and well, cut a long story short, I never saw her again. No. And then in 1963, I was poleaxed. I was playing a concert in, I think it was in Scarborough. Yes, it was. And I received the terrible, terrible news that Edith had passed away. So, in quite disconsolate, I sat down and I wrote this song that I'm going to play for you now, just to remember Edith, which I simply call Edith Piaf. I hope you like it. Edith Piaf. Non, je ne regrette rien. I can't forget you, I never can. Your songs hit right to the marrow. We called you our little sparrow. Oh, Edith Piaf, Edith Piaf. No, je ne regrette rien. You found me haughty, that was rather naughty. But your music was so entrancing, it set us all off dancing. Oh, Edith Piaf, Edith Piaf. Laugh, how we all did laugh when you sang that song about Maurice Chevalier taking a bath. What class, you had it on Mars. Oh, Edith Piaf, Edith Piaf. Non, je ne regrette rien. La vie en rose, comme ça, très bien. But now you are gone. We are so poor. Could you not please return just for one encore? Oh, Edith Piaf, Edith Piaf. Paris, oh Edith, go there with me. We'll walk the boulevards of the past, with Toulouse-Lautrec looking for a glass, and you wearing perfume from grass. Our rendezvous would be iron cars. Oh, Edith Piaf, Edith Piaf. That was my dedication to Edith. And Well, I always occasionally I played it. I think of her whenever I do. So anyway, after the war, well, it was for entertainment. I was rather at my beam's ends, to be honest with you. The work was that we had the rationing. Work was thin on the ground, and well, there was an advertisement in the Times for a pianist, and I said to Peter, I'll respond to that advertisement, but it did say only pianist wanted, no comedian. So Peter said, Noel, I don't know if it's the right one for you. That I mean, they're really stressing that just the pianist don't want any funny stuff. Do you think you should even go for that one? I said, Peter, you know, Peter, remember that it was I who played You're the Tops to Myrna Loy in Claridge's. Yeah, no, I know you did. I remember I was there, but I don't want to tell you, but I heard, I eavesdropped, and she said Dick Powell, you know, she was in the films with, she said like in that American accent, well, Noel Howard might think that I'm the tops, but I think Noel Howard's the bottoms. He's a lousy pianist. And of course, I didn't like hearing that at all. But well, of course, it's quite untrue, as has been evinced. But anyway, I said, well, Peter, I'm sorry. Against your advice, I'm going to ring the number. So I did. I rang the number. And I got through almost immediately. I said, hello, this is Noel Howard, pianist to the stars, and anybody else who will have him. And the response from the other end came, oh, we really are a pianist. I mean, oh, this was, by the way, this was Willie Moore. You probably know him as Somerset Moore. His friends, I mean, Willie Moore. And he had stammer, so on the ends of the he said, well, do you play classical? He said, ha! Do I play classical? Do I? Switched it off. I didn't mean to. I was do I play classical? Of course, it's quite untrue, actually. I'm always very nervous when it comes to classical. But I thought, well, keep quiet about it. I said, of course I play classical. He said, well, look, Mr. Howard, can you come to Berkeley Square to my news? And there's one more test for you. I said, certainly, tomorrow, 3 o'clock, I'll be there, Mr. Moore. And Berkeley Square. You know, with me, it's kind of in life, a phrase, a castaway phrase is a song, you know, because of course, you might know this one. Right. The night we met, there was music aboard in the air, there were angels dining at the hill, and the nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. You know, so I was excited to go to Berkeley Square, and I was there, and I said, I'm here, Mr. Moore, and he said, oh, well, very pleased to meet you, but here's the test. Can you play Joshua? Well, I could. You see, he thought he'd got me, but I knew it. Oh, and then Joshua, an old musical, you know, Mary Lloyd probably sang Joshua. Anyway, so I said to her, Joshua, sweeter than lemon squash you are. Oh, by gosh, you are, Joshua. And he immediately said, you need to grow like you. And I said, no, he said, Howard, you're engaged. I said, sorry, I'm a confirmed bachelor. Oh, you mean I got the job? Oh, I was delighted. And very soon I was ensconced in Villa Mauresque, very nice, in Cap Ferrat, south of France. Well, actually, I wasn't ensconced in the villa itself because I was just Willie Moore's pianist. You know, I was a bit of a form of low life, to be honest with you. Right? No, it was more the garden shed and the baby piano. So sometimes before I go to sleep, go past the baby piano and then hit the pillow and I was away. But anyway, the people I met in Cap Ferrat, you know, Gregory Peck, Truman Capote, his little doggy, and Lauren Bacall, who of course was married to Humphrey Bogart. And that got me quite apprehensive, to say the least, because, you know, remembering So Humphrey was saying, this is a nice joint you got here, Somerset, or who's that guy there? I seem to recognize him. Well, you know, I kind of kept a low profile, and but fortunately he didn't twig that I nearly rose to international fame with the role of Rick instead of him in Casablanca. Got away with it that time. So, where was I now? Oh yes. Now, there was one evening in particular, I was with Willie Maughan for 12 years, left in 1959, and do you know, south of France is a wonderful, magical place, and well, a little vignette, a real life vignette, this one. There was one evening, and I was in the living room, and there were the French windows, and there was a balcony, so, you know, I went through the French windows. What other windows would you have in France? And, you know, there was the moon. And you might know, or not, one of Willie's famous books is The Moon and Sixpence, which was a story about George Sanders played the main part in the film, in the 1952 film, I think, The Moon and Sixpence. And it's a story about a man who gives up everything, his family and everything, to go and live in the South Seas and live the life and paint. And live the life very much so of Van Gogh, Gauguin, I should say, 2 G's in the Gauguin in the South Seas. And, you know, followed his calling. And I hadn't read the book, nor have I still, but the phrase stuck in my mind, The Moon and Sixpence, because it was on the library. And then I thought, oh yeah, The Moon and Sixpence. And there is the moon, and it does look like a sixpence. So that was the source of my fifth composition, I think, The Moon and Sixpence was, because I didn't do a terrible amount of composition in the early days, you know, and of course Willie wanted me to play the, you know, the great American song. Give you an example of what Willie liked to hear was, we'll have Manhattan, the Bronx and Staten Island too. It's lovely going through the zoo. It's very fancy on Old Delancey Street, you know. The push, and so on like that. That's what he wanted. And anyway, so I sat down and I wrote this song, and I'd like to play it for you now. It's called, not surprisingly, The Moon and Sixpence. Number 4, Knock at the Door. I'll come to that in a minute. Knock at the Door. I'm referring to when I was reduced to playing the bingo halls. Number 4, Knock at the Door. But that's a bit later. Should we say, got an introduction to it. Sometimes I put introductions in, other times I didn't bother, but this one has one. The moon's like a sixpence. It can almost sing, but if you follow its melody, it can lead to penury. The Moon and Sixpence, what a life of sloth with no resilience, ambling down old Jeeves roads, the Cornish with all its foals. For this you cannot grow too old. Oh, how I love La Vie en Rose. And it's all down to the Moon and Sixpence. The Moon and Sixpence. Life's merry-go-round with no assistance. Expenses few to heed. I'd be like a lord gone to sea. Extravagance my only need. This is nirvana, yes indeed. And it's all down to the Moon and Sixpence. Privation's such a hassle, I'd rather run a castle. And if I'm in the drink, order me champagne and make sure it's pink. The Moon and Sixpence, I'm moving to Nice this very instant. Grey skies will be no more. I'll invite Zaza Gabor. Who could possibly ask for more? I'll have friendships by the score, and it's all down to the Moon and Sixpence. prefer we didn't play that one again, especially not if the guests are here, which of course I didn't like it at all. I mean, I thought he'd like it, but anyway, he was okay. You know, he was Willie Moore was as much French as he was English, because he was like born in France, but of course he had British citizenship. And I once said to him, well, Willie, when did you sort of feel that you knew that you were this strange hybrid of French and English? He said, well, I won't do the voice. He said, well, it was when I was going on a train from Paris to Dieppe and with my Alma, his nanny, and he said, I was about 4 years old, and I looked out the train window and I said, regarde, une horse. You know, so he really was a hybrid of two cultures. Well, moving on anyway, I say I was with Willie for about 12 years, and then it got to 1959, and oh well, it was remarkable because I had a second bite of the cherry with Hollywood. The story goes like this. Peter Fortescue, his cousin Doris, she knew Hitch, Alfred Hitchcock. I think she'd been a dancer with Bosley Barkley and she lived in Hollywood. Anyway, she wanted to see her cousin, so I was a sort of an excuse really, I suppose. And cutting a long story short, once again, I got a reading for the film North by Northwest, which, as you know, the main character was dear Cary Grant. But at least I had the chance of snatching the part from it. And I'll give you the audition scene that I did, alongside my fellow compatriot, of course, James Mason. James Mason was the most distinctive way of speaking, and it's regarded by most people as having a very interesting and lovely form of enunciation in English. He spoke like this, so I was quite honoured to be playing alongside him. And it was I was auditioning the auction scene, if you know the auction scene from North by Northwest. I'll give it to you as a scene. North by Northwest auction scene. Take one, action. Has anybody ever told you, Mr. Kaplan, that you rather overplay your various roles? First you play the outraged Madison Avenue man who believes he's been mistaken for somebody else. Then you play the fugitive from justice trying to clear his name of a crime he knows he didn't commit. Now you play the peevish lover stunned into jealousy and betrayal. Seems to me you fellas could stand a little less training from the FBI, a little bit more from the Actors Studio, but this is me. Apparently, the only role that will satisfy you is when I play dead. In your very next role, you'll be quite convincing, I assure you. So cut, so that was the scene I did with him. And anyway, Peter recounted this to me later, that he overheard this, because Peter was there, of course. And Jay, well, I'll imagine it as a scene. It was Jack, somebody was the director, so James is going to Jackie. He says, Jackie, you know, and then Hitch comes into the scene. Oh, Hitch, I'm so glad you've also arrived. I was just going to say to Jack, I mean, frankly, this is Noel Howard. I mean, he's a compatriot, true, but, well, you know, I was saying to him, Noel, have you seen the Rushes? And you know what he said? He said, I've not been to the Norfolk Broads for so long. I mean, frankly, I don't, well, I suppose you could give him a walk-on part, at which point Hitch said, now, remember, James, that's my specialty. Oh, yes, sorry, Hitch, I was forgetting. Well, I didn't get the part, you know. And anyway, but Peter got to see his cousin, which was nice for him. And anyway, that brings us, I suppose, neatly to the 1960s. Oh, the 1960s. They're known as the swinging 60s, aren't they? But for me, they were the swinging 60s, because the swinging cuts I had to make, oh, you would not believe. I mean, you really, really would not believe the cuts I had to make. You know, it was a case of making ends meet, and it was a hard time. And that's when I was reduced to the bingo halls and doing fancy play for them. You know, they like the sort of Latin American. very jazzy they were also. But I didn't like it because, well, frankly, the bingo halls, really. I mean, somebody who sang to Myrna Law, can you imagine? I mean, really, the ego was around the ankles. So that was the low point of my career, a very low point in the 1960s. All I will say is, thank goodness for Club Med, because in 1965 I was offered work in Club Med, curiously, in the South Seas, as a pianist on the various islands, because I had Tahiti, New Caledonia, it was French territory, and but it was confusing because the 60s were, I mean, there was so much free alcohol available that it got very confusing. But I turned it to my advantage because I wrote my first musical in, I think it was in Tahiti, and it's coming out next year, I hope. It's called South Specific. Yes, that's my musical coming out next year. So, thank you, Club Med. And that brings us to 1974. Well, in 1974, I was back in England from Club Med. And Bernard Manning, if some of you may not know Bernard Manning had, in 1974, the program The Wheel Tappers and Chancers Club started. And it was club acts and a little bit of field event, to be quite honest with you. I wasn't at all interested. But he had hunted me, and, well, I'll give it to you as a scene. Okay. Auditioning for Wheel Tappers or being headhunted for Wheel Tappers and Chancers. Hey, no, we want you for Wheel Tappers and Chancers. You'd be great, you'd be like the British Liberace, they'd love you, I could give you free Creator Shandy just to get you, to put your name down. Would you be interested? Would you? No. Yeah, we got Matt Monroe. He's been Tony Monopoly, Barbara Law. Oh, you'd be great. Well, of course, I was smiling rather like this. Yes, well, I should think about it, Mr. Manning. And as George Bernard Shaw said, dear George Bernard Shaw, I didn't know, wasn't a friend, but in the spiritual sense he was. As dear George Bernard Shaw said, if something is too silly to say, you can always sing it. And I think that's appropriate for this song. Yeah. And it's called Dear Mr. Bernard Manning. And it was really my musical riposte to Bernard Manning, who was really quite a charming, charming was not the right adjective, who was a kind of a friendly guy, but he was a bit blue for my taste for a start, and so was his club. So my riposte I gave in musical form, and I'm going to play for you now, Dear Mr. Bernard Manning. How are we doing? 24. Oh, good. Here it is. Please, Mr. Bernard Manning is the title. Please, Mr. Bernard Manning, in all these shows that you are planning, kindly strike me from your list, for my back catalogue of songs includes lists. Not true, actually, but never mind. Since I'm not a man for a blue job, man for a crude job, all those kinds of things, you might think I'm cheeky, really rather freaky, but that theory has no wings. Bars are a thing of mere illusion, so don't try to reel me in with a free rediffusion set. You do that with all your performers, I'll bet. Please, Mr. Bernard Manning, while this might sound like self-banning, I must inform you regrettably that the Wheel Tappers and Chanters Club is not for me, not for moi, because slap and a tickle, pork pie and some pickle, really please don't ring, HB sauce I hate it, chicken in a basket, what's that I ask it? Clubs are gatherings really quite cliquey. I thought of my returned envelope from the Reform Club in London. One sneaky move. It's not what you know, but who it seems. So please, Mr. Bernard Manning, your kind offer my ego isn't fanning, and while chances I normally like to seize, to avoid your club, I'd happily relocate to Belize. Yes, that was my response to a musical called To Burn at Night, because he never got it. It was, and I wrote that. I wrote that in my little. I've not mentioned it yet. I believe it. I will mention it now. I wrote that in my retreat in Mosquito Buzz. Which what's Mosquito Buzz? I hear you asking. Mosquito Buzz is where my one-axle caravan is situated on the Gower Peninsula near Tenby, and it's there that I go to, well, frankly, retreat from the mad, mad world sometimes, and I usually do all my compositions in Mosquito Buzz. So I managed to afford that after working for Willie Moore, had a bit of money. Anyway, going from the 70s now to the 80s. Oh, had a bit of luck. Had a bit of luck. Yes, had a bit of luck in the 80s. Because what happened in the 80s was, you know, the battlefield tours with the old boys from the First World War. You know, they'd go over and they wanted to hear, oh, just here we go again, watch my back. They wanted to hear the old song from the First World War. You know, songs like, keep the home fires burn. One time, I get really into it. And I'm afraid at one time I would, you know, some mental abstraction I came out with, there'll be bluebirds over. And one veteran came up to me, you know, he was quite indignant. And he said, have you entered a time warp again? I said, oh, the Rocky Horror Show. Let's do the time warp again. You know, and you know, they were lovely boys because by the end of the evening in the Abyss, I think it was the Abyss, we had like a veteran of the song, a veteran of Mons, the retreat from Mons, Vimy Ridge, there was about 6 of them, and I was doing, let's do that. And they were, you know, boys of 80, 90 going, let's do it. They were all time warp. Because they had this great spirit, those boys. Well, by the noughties, no more business there because it nearly all died off, unfortunately. Anyway, that brings me rather close to the conclusion of my concert now, and I would like to sing for you my wartime hit, if I may. And you know, I went down to the Mayfair Hotel in London. I tried to buttonhole Ambrose's orchestra. I did one time. I wrote it just before V-Day. I said, Ambrose, this is a hit. You've got to cover this one. Someday you'll find me, but I'm afraid he wasn't interested. But anyway, I'll play it for you. Someday you'll find me, and I hope you like it. Someday you'll find me. And someday I'll find it. Oh, 38. This also has an introduction. As I look out to sea, not much do I see, but when the future lies before us all barren and grey, it's good to remember that there's always some sun ray. Someday you'll find me, no commitments to bind me. There'll be stars and there'll be eyes. Someday you'll find me, who knows where? Maybe in Anglesey. I'll step up, the prize you'll be. Gone, all those years are now long gone, so I try to hang on to what's forever vanished. Someday you'll find me. It may be huddled right beside me, strolling the Strand, lost hand in hand. No, how did I simply not know? We've got something very special. It's like the snow. Oh, darling, can't you see that in searching for a pearl, we found it in our world? I only know that someday you'll find me. Yes, that was my wartime hit, to me anyway. Well, I've just got enough time to recount the most extraordinary little vignette again. This was 1978, I believe, Southend-on-Sea, and well, you know, Fred was stage manager, and he came in rather brusquely into my dressing room. I should say the dressing room. I didn't have my own, of course. Always bottom of the bill. And I'll give it to you as a scene. Here, Noel, your friend's arrived, your big Hollywood star. She wants to see you. Oh, yes, she's here. She's coming through the corridor now. I said, sorry, my friend, my big Hollywood star. He said, yeah, no, yeah, it's Mae West. Shut up. I'm finally here then. It's really good to see you. Noel, I love all your songs. That's the one I really love. Matt Alone, as you go down to the ocean. Yeah, I love it. Oh, really, I didn't know I heard that one. Oh, sure. Hey, I've heard all about Firefly. And now those are two words that go together very well for a lady like me. And before long, when she was bearing down on me on the armchair, and I was really quite distressed. It was like she was coming on top of me. It was like, Miss West, I'm afraid you're labouring under a massive misapprehension, and fortunately, just at that moment, thank goodness, it was hey, Miss West, your taxi's here. You've got to practice. You've got to go straight away. And thank goodness she went. She said, well, you know what I say. Come up and see me sometime. And she was gone. Thank goodness. Yes, well, that concludes my show for you. I hope you liked it. And, it was very nice of you to come on. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Well done.